Gracias por estar con nosotros. Están viendo News 24 en español.
En la isla de Rodos tuvo lugar el diálogo de las civilizaciones en las que i24 News participó como sponsor.
Uno de los paneles trató sobre el paradigma del conflicto de Medio Oriente y tuvo como moderador a nuestro colega Eylon Levy, periodista de investigación de i24 News.
Además, Eylon tuvo la oportunidad de tener una entrevista exclusiva con el vicecanciller de Rusia, Mikhail Bogdanov, y está aquí en el estudio con nosotros para contarnos acerca de esa reunión. Eylon, ¿cómo podrías describir a Mikhail Bogdanov?
Hola, Carlos. Sí,
Hola.
Nosotros tuvimos la oportunidad muy excepcional de hacer una entrevista con el señor Bogdanov. Él es una de las figuras más importantes en la política exterior de Rusia. Es el vicecanciller de Rusia, pero también es el enviado personal del presidente ruso al Medio Oriente. Así que ha hablado con todos los líderes y todas las importantes todas las los personajes más importantes en la región.
La entrevista comenzó hablando del incidente que provocó el derribamiento del avión ruso por parte del ejército sirio cuando disparó misiles tierra-aire contra aviones de la Fuerza Aérea Israelí. Escuchemos lo que decía.
When through the fault of Israeli pilots, 15 people died, as our Minister of Defense said, the rules of the game have changed.
Mikhail Bogdanov is Putin's man in the Middle East, the Kremlin's Middle East envoy and Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia. We met him at the Dialogue of Civilizations Rhodes Forum for a rare, in-depth and no-holds-barred interview. Mr. Bogdanov, last month in a tragic incident, the Syrian army shot down a Russian plane. Why did Russia blame Israel?
I think that on this issue, the President of Russia and Minister of Defense have already spoken. So I think on my level, as a diplomat, I would be uncomfortable to comment on the issues that are related to certain military matters.
One theory is that Russia has decided it's time to end Israel's freedom over the skies of Syria.
Let me say again that I do not represent the Ministry of Defense. So if you have questions on this matter, you need to address them to the Russian Ministry of Defense.
You say you don't speak for the Russian Defense Ministry, but you are the envoy of the Russian president, and he says this is, quote, a chain of tragic chance events, but the Russian Defense Ministry says it reserves the right to respond. Are they playing good cop, bad cop here?
I can't comment on that. I don't know. I don't know what you mean, because I'm certain that all these issues are being discussed at the very highest level with the participation of the Ministry of Defense and other actors.
What I'm saying is the Ministry of Defense statement
I understand what you're saying.
seems to be very different from the president.
It's not my job to comment on what my president or Minister of Defense mean. It's not my capacity.
Your country has now delivered the S-3s.
Of course we do. Therefore, for many years, despite requests from the Syrian authorities, there were even agreement and prepayments, and people were prepared. We didn't deliver the S-300 system precisely because the Israeli leadership asked us not to do so. But in this particular case, the rules of the game were violated, so the rules of the game have changed. The rules of the game were violated when Israeli pilots used a Russian aircraft for cover, knowing how it threatened the Russian crew.
Eylon, el contexto de este incidente tiene que ver con la guerra civil de Siria, que ya tiene más de 500.000 muertos, 13 millones de personas desplazadas. Assad recupera el poder sobre el territorio gracias a dos aliados, que son Rusia e Irán. Israel demanda que Irán no se acerque a nuestras fronteras. ¿Qué dice Bogdanov al respecto?
Sí, Bogdanov nos dijo, como vimos, que Rusia entiende las inquietudes de Israel con relación a su seguridad en Siria y por eso Rusia no había dado las baterías de S-300 a Siria porque entiende las inquietudes. Dicho eso, insistió en que Siria es una nación soberana y por eso tiene el derecho de tener fuerzas iraníes sobre su terreno, aun si a Israel no le gusta eso.
Escuchemos vamos a Bogdanov. Esto le decía Bogdanov a Eylon al respecto de la presencia rusa e iraní en Siria.
Israel is demanding that Iran be kept completely out of Syria.
On what grounds? On what grounds are you demanding this?
Like you say, you're not a spokesman for the defense ministry. I'm not a spokesman for the Israeli government.
So we have nothing to talk about if you can't answer my questions, because Syria is a member of the United Nations. It has equal rights to Russia, Israel, America, and any other country. This is a sovereign country led by a legitimate government. That's Syria's sovereign right.
And yet, all the same, Russia has been negotiating with Israel about a buffer zone, keeping Iranian troops away from the Syrian border.
Of course, all this was done in coordination with Damascus. We told our Israeli colleagues on the political and diplomatic echelon that defense matters are ultimately decided by the sovereign Syrian leadership regarding Syrian territory. They have asked us and the Iranians to be there. The Iranians have said repeatedly on many levels that Syria asked them to help in the fight against terrorists. And when Mr. Assad tells them that their mission is accomplished and they are no longer needed, they will leave Syria, just like us.
Skeptics might look at Russian policy and say, with evidence of Russian interference in the American elections, poisoning of the Skripals and the invasion of Ukraine, that actually it's not credible to say that sovereignty is what's driving Russian foreign policy.
You know, it's really funny to talk about this. You must not be aware of the processes that have taken place in the last 4 years. Regarding Ukraine, I want to ask our European colleagues. There were elections, and we were only waiting to implement that agreement between the legitimate president and the opposition, which was guaranteed by Germany, France, and Poland. Did it happen? Where are these guarantees? Where are these elections? And where is the legitimate president? And you are talking about credibility?
Eilon, Rusia como superpotencia no está preocupada que Irán pueda llegar a tener una bomba atómica y que esto cambie la relación de las fuerzas en la región. Las revelaciones que presentó Netanyahu, el archivo atómico iraní, ¿no lo convencen de que es un peligro?
No pienso que Rusia quiere que Irán tenga una bomba atómica, por eso es una parte del acuerdo internacional contra el programa atómico de Irán, pero no le interesaba a Bogdanov que los iraníes habían mentido a la comunidad internacional sobre su programa atómico, y Bogdanov era muy cínico en nuestra entrevista diciendo que el Organismo Internacional de Energía Atómica debería haber verificado lo que dijo Netanyahu, pero no quiso decir que eso es lo que tienen que hacer en este momento.
Hasta el día de hoy no hay mucha reacción internacional respecto a las revelaciones del archivo nuclear iraní, que fue secuestrado según
las fuentes israelíes.
Sí, según prensa extranjera, por Israel. Pero sigamos, Bogdanov le responde a Eilon Levy acerca precisamente de los archivos nucleares de Irán y sobre el proceso de paz en Medio Oriente.
Earlier in the year, when Prime Minister Netanyahu revealed nuclear archives and material stolen from Tehran, he showed incontrovertible evidence that Iran hid the fact it was trying to build a nuclear bomb. Does that concern you?
I'm telling you again, no. Maybe it's part of the information warfare, but speaking seriously, the Israeli leadership told us later that there were 3 days for these sites to be cleared and concealed. If that's the case, Israel should have taken a different approach and not worked with journalists and with what we call megaphone diplomacy. But say seriously, let's check this now, today, not in New York. We're ready to assist, and I think the Iranian leadership is ready to assist and check this. The same goes for the archives referring to the nuclear program in Iran. It's not a matter of speaking from a stage. It's the work of the IAEA, which is supposed to check this. It is a professional and serious organization. It has authority and legitimacy. And to tell the whole world they have something and to show pictures, maybe some people like this and it helps him. Maybe it's intended to score points and for internal consumption. But if you're talking seriously, this issue has to be dealt with at the professional level. The IAEA recently published the latest report, and Iran is the most inspectable country in the world when it comes to the nuclear issue.
According to the Israeli Prime Minister, the evidence for the Iranian nuclear archives proves they were trying to...
These documents and archives should have been transferred to the IAEA long ago.
These new sites raised in the new...
No, but it's naive to think that only one country and only one secret service knows something that nobody else knows. That's what I think. If the Israeli leadership appeals to the United Nations on Iran, it has to appeal to the United Nations on Palestinian issues too. How to solve the Palestinian issue. Israel is not doing what it should be doing, according to the Security Council and the Security Council resolutions.
Do you think the policy changes of the Trump administration could have a positive, constructive effect in the Middle East?
I think, on the contrary, the new U.S. administration is working to undermine the legal basis for resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and on the basis of establishing two states that would live more or less in peace and secure conditions with each other. They're destroying what previous administrations did, for which the Americans, Israelis, and Palestinians won Nobel Peace Prizes.
Mr. Bogdanov, you've spoken to both sides. If Israelis and Palestinians renew negotiations and it turns out they can't reach a deal, what should Israel do?
I don't know. Many Israeli officials told us the best thing is direct dialogue with the Palestinians. We agree with this logic. Moreover, if you know, President Putin proposed a meeting 2 years ago between the Israeli Prime Minister and President Abbas in Moscow without preconditions. But unfortunately, our Israeli colleagues rejected this effort for direct talks at the highest level and to try to move this point from an impasse.
Elon, luego que Trump haya reconocido Jerusalén como la capital de Israel, hubo manifestaciones y vos hablaste sobre el tema con Bogdanov y te sorprendió con su respuesta respecto al estado de Jerusalén. ¿Qué fue lo que te dijo?
Los rusos habían anunciado el año pasado, 8 meses antes de Trump, que reconocen a Jerusalén Oeste como la capital de Israel, pero no explicaron nunca por qué tomaron esta decisión. En esta entrevista, Bogdanov nos explicó por la primera vez por qué los rusos han decidido de reconocer a Jerusalén Oeste como la capital de Israel. Miramos.
Veamos entonces la entrevista que Eylon Levy hizo al vicecanciller Mikhail Bogdanov y sus declaraciones sobre Jerusalén.
Last year, Russia surprised Israel by recognizing West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Why did you do that?
Sometimes we notice that there are certain elements of irrationality in our approach. As you know, many years ago, we gave early recognition to a Palestinian state on the 1967 lines with the capital in East Jerusalem. And we asked ourselves a question: what about West Jerusalem? If we say East Jerusalem is the capital of a Palestinian state, then logically, West Jerusalem would be the capital of Israel. Every day I went from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in order to meet the leadership of Israel. Therefore, it was logical to come to the conclusion that East Jerusalem, how you say, God willing, would be the capital of Palestine, and West Jerusalem would be the capital of Israel. Logic.
If it's illogical not to recognize West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, why is it logical to keep the Russian embassy in Tel Aviv?
The transfer of the embassy, I think, is a technical issue, but I think it needs to be resolved in a balanced way. We have recognized East Jerusalem as the capital of the Palestinian state. Can we transfer our representative office in Ramallah, which is not yet an embassy, to East Jerusalem? We support a balanced policy. If we transfer our embassy to West Jerusalem, which we recognize as the Israeli capital, what should we do with East Jerusalem, which we have recognized as the Palestinian capital?
Okay, Mr. Bogdanov, when are we seeing you next in Israel?
I hope that quite soon. Hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elon, ¿tenías algo interesante para comentar, para remarcar sobre la entrevista con Bogdanov?
Sí, pregunté a Bogdanov si Rusia va a presionar a otros países a reconocer a Jerusalén Oeste como la capital de Israel. Dijo, no, es para los otros países decidir, pero si países europeos reconocen a un Estado palestino y a Jerusalén Este como su capital, sería lógico reconocer al Oeste como la capital de Israel también.
Elon, muchísimas gracias.
Felicitaciones
por la entrevista. Ya regresamos con News 24 en español.